It's 2023 and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia wants to join BRICS. There's plenty of reasons why they want to do this, but what I want to know is, why now?
The world's largest oil producer, Saudi Arabia, is reportedly asking to join BRICS.
Forget new allies. Even old friends of the West are ditching it, like Saudi Arabia.
In case you didn't know, BRICS, the economic bloc made up of 5 of the world's leading emerging economies, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has not had any additional members for the past 13 years. The last country to join was actually us, South Africa. Every single time a country tried to join, and there have been many of them, their applications were declined. However, that might change soon because Saudi Arabia wants in, and the likelihood of them joining is quite high. These BRICS nations will actually be meeting later this year in Durban, KZN, at the 15th BRICS Summit hosted by South Africa. And it is at this meeting that new memberships could potentially be announced. Now, before that meeting happens, it is important for me to help you understand what is going on. So, in this video, I want to let you in on what opportunities BRICS has for the Saudis and what the Saudis bring to the table. I want to highlight some of the complexities in terms of what could go wrong and what to watch out for. But first, the most interesting question for me. Why is Saudi Arabia looking to join right now? What changed? Well, to help answer that question, we have to start here.
They're going to have to, there's going to be some consequences for what they've done with Russia.
Okay, wait. Let's hold on for a second. You're probably asking yourself, consequences for what? What did Saudi Arabia do with Russia? Well, if you were to take a wild guess, I'm pretty sure it would have something to do with oil.
Oil-producing countries, including Saudi Arabia and Russia, have agreed to cut oil production by 2 million barrels a day.
The objective behind the cuts is clear. OPEC Plus wants the prices to rise.
The 2 clips I just showed you portray the first reason as to why Saudi Arabia is pursuing a BRICS membership as soon as possible. And it is the fact that their relationship with the United States of America has deteriorated greatly. To keep things nice and simple, let me break down this deterioration into smaller chunks. The first part of why the US and Saudi Arabia are growing apart is this. It's the fact that Saudi Arabia and Russia seem to be getting closer and closer despite what happened last year and what is effectively still going on.
There is a war raging and the world is taking sides.
I say this because when Russia escalated their conflict with Ukraine, Saudi Arabia refused to call them out, well, at least on a public platform. And to the US, this looks like Saudi Arabia is turning a blind eye to what is happening in Ukraine. On the other hand, the second reason why the US and the Saudis are not getting along is black gold. Oil. Let me explain. Oil is a major input cost in almost every industry in every country. The US, having the largest economy in the world, uses a lot of oil on a daily basis. And so when the oil price goes up, the price of everything goes up and you have something called inflation, which, as we all know, the US is currently struggling with. Now, of course, over a long period of time, oil prices will fluctuate naturally according to the laws of demand and supply. And they will go up and down. This time, however, it feels a little bit deliberate, well, at least in the eyes of the US. This is mainly because an increase in oil prices generates insane profits for oil exporting countries. Such countries that benefit from oil price increases include Saudi Arabia, Russia. You get the point. And you already know who's going to be upset at that.
Saudis have conveyed to us, both privately as well as publicly, their intention to reduce oil production, which they knew would increase Russian revenues and potentially blunt the effectiveness of sanctions.
It is this tension that is pushing the Saudis towards BRICS at a quicker rate. They literally cannot wait to join. I mean, to be fair to the Saudis, they could easily make a point that not everything revolves around the US. Saudi Arabia has Saudi people to take care of. And the sooner they make this point clear, the sooner they will stop being treated like pawns of the US in the Middle East. The Saudis have finally been pushed to the edge of the board. They are tired of being pawns. They want a promotion, a seat at the big table.
What happens now?
Well, white moves first, and then we play.
To further emphasize the point that not everything is about the US and the dollar like everyone has been making it out to be, here's another important reason why Saudi Arabia is looking to join BRICS now. And it is their short to medium term investment goals. Saudi Arabia and other oil producing countries spend a lot of their money through Sovereign Wealth Fund. In this case, the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund. And Saudi Arabia has actually said they want this Sovereign Wealth Fund to be the biggest in the world over the next 7 years. So the sooner they join, the better.
Now, you have said, I think publicly, you would like it to be the largest sovereign wealth fund in the world at some point, and you'd like it to get to $1 trillion.
$2 trillion.
$2 trillion.
Yes.
So when do you think you'll be able to get to $2 trillion?
The number looks really big because, the largest sovereign wealth fund today is about 1 trillion. We think that it's very much achievable by 2030.
Joining BRICS offers the Saudis some investment opportunities that they wouldn't be able to tap into if they were not a part of BRICS.
We were also considering some coverage in Asia, so most likely we're going to have also an office either in China or Hong Kong or potentially even Singapore.
Okay. BRICS offers multiple opportunities for diversification. So the sooner they join BRICS, the quicker they can diversify their portfolio, which they so desperately want to do. Speaking of which, let me tell you more about what joining BRICS can do for the Saudis. Starting off with access to the BRICS Bank. Yeah, BRICS has a bank and they're actually working on a new currency, but more on that on a different video.
The head of African Development Bank has mentioned that Africa would need about $100 billion investment in infrastructure on a yearly basis to close the infrastructure gap. The new development bank is providing liquidity and lending to developing countries, even beyond immediate BRICS family.
Since its inception, the Shanghai-headquartered lender claims to have funded almost $32 billion in projects ranging from clean energy, urban mobility, transport to digital infrastructure.
Those are indeed emerging markets' attempt at establishing their own alternative financial governance body as an alternative to the existing legacy institutions like the World Bank and IMF and all that.
The new development bank formed by BRICS is an excellent AAA rated bank that offers low-cost funding to BRICS members and other developing nations. So imagine having access to that on top of oil money, on top of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Secondly, joining BRICS immediately exposes Saudi businesses, entrepreneurs to the economies of BRICS countries. I mean, in terms of population size alone, BRICS countries account for 40% of the world. 40% of 8 billion people are in BRICS. That's almost half the world. Imagine starting a business knowing that you have such a huge customer base, on top of your existing customers from other countries. Taking into consideration how volatile oil prices are, having an economy so dependent on oil is not a good idea in the long run. That is why Saudi Arabia is currently trying to reduce the percentage of which oil accounts for their whole economy.
Currently, it's like 70%, and the non-oil revenue increased quite tremendously in the past 3 years or so. So eventually, we want to be less dependent on oil. Okay. And the reason being is the volatility in the oil prices. And the last thing, you want to have a volatile economy.
Another benefit of joining BRICS for the Saudis is something that I didn't really want to touch on, but it is such a huge elephant in the room that I should at least glance over it. And it is the idea of being protected against sanctions.
The largest and most severe package
of economic sanctions
that Russia has ever seen.
We all know that whenever you fall out of favor with the US, sanctions are almost inevitable. So, if Saudi Arabia, when Saudi Arabia joined BRICS, if sanctions are imposed on them, they will at least still have access to the BRICS Bank. They will still have access to the large population base which BRICS offers you. And so that could provide insulation against sanctions. But Enough about what Saudi will get when they join BRICS. What about what Saudi brings to the table? And to answer that is actually quite simple, so I'll keep it short. Number one, oil, followed by oil money. And this can come through investment by the Saudi Sovereign Wealth Fund or through other economic partnerships between BRICS countries and Saudi businesses. Another benefit of Saudi Arabia joining BRICS, well, in terms of what it brings to the table, is potential lubrication between BRICS countries and countries in the Middle East. And this is because of how much influence Saudi Arabia has over the Middle East. And lastly, on the list of things Saudi Arabia brings to the table is more military power. Although BRICS is not a military alliance, it does help to have another country that has a strong military added to your bloc. Speaking of military power, and that brings me to the last section of this video, what could possibly go wrong? I think at this point I should probably mention something very important. The biggest supplier of weapons to Saudi Arabia is actually the United States.
The US is the biggest arms dealer in the world, and Saudi Arabia is its #1 customer.
Now, here arises the complexity. Will the United States continue to provide weapons to Saudi Arabia after they join BRICS? We'll have to wait and see. Secondly, Saudi Arabia has been linked with a couple of human rights violations here and there.
On August 9th, 2018, a fighter jet dropped a bomb on this street in Dayan, Yemen. It exploded here, near a busy marketplace, killing 40 children on a school bus. The plane was from a coalition led by Saudi Arabia. They've conducted thousands of airstrikes in Yemen since 2015.
Now, South Africa, being such a huge proponent of the protection of human rights, could find itself in a bit of a tricky position in this regard, because will they have the balls to call out Saudi Arabia once they join BRICS? Thirdly, there are some complex relationships within BRICS already. Some countries might not want Saudi Arabia to join, and once they join, what will happen there? And lastly, once Saudi Arabia joins BRICS, will they allow other countries to join? Will they allow their enemies, Yemen for example, to join BRICS? And again, we will have to wait and see. But safe to say, we are truly living in interesting times. What a video. Hey guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Although I feel like at this point, you should probably be welcoming me back because I haven't uploaded in so long. But yeah, I just wanted to come over here and say thank you so much for sticking to the end of the video. You're probably already subscribed, but if you aren't, please hit that subscribe button, leave a like and a comment in terms of something that you feel I missed or what you would like to see in the next video. The reason I haven't been uploading, and I'm saying this so that I can keep myself accountable, is because of this concept. I forgot its name, but it's around the idea of waiting until something is perfect before showing it to the world. And I've been sitting on so many videos for so long because every time I make a video or I start working on a video, there's so many developments that I uncover that I end up just waiting halfway through the video, or even 90% like I did with this video. It's been done for so long, but every time I go and polish it, something new happens and I have to try and include it. So I have to say, going forward, I will try and reduce that. That might mean there's less information in my videos, but hopefully that means I publish a little bit more often. I hope you can forgive me for that. And yeah, man, like I said, you probably already subscribed. If you aren't, please subscribe. Let me know what else you wanna see me talk about. I haven't touched on a finance topic in a while. That might be next. Never know. Until the next one, peace.